We all felt how the COVID-19 pandemic changed, well, pretty much everything. But what if one of its biggest, most lasting impacts wasn't just on our health or our jobs, but on our relationship with machines? It turns out the pandemic basically hit the fast-forward button on the rise of humanoid robots. Let's dig into how. So, the pandemic's new coworker. How exactly does a global health crisis suddenly create job openings for robots in jobs that up until then were done only by people? Well, it all started right where the risks were highest, on the front lines.
All of a sudden, keeping people apart wasn't just a good idea, it was a matter of life and death. And that intense pressure is what basically yanked humanoid service robots out of the research lab and threw them right into the deep end, into our hospitals, our hotels, you name it.
And look, we're not talking about some far-off science fiction concept here. This was real. Robots were suddenly doing these incredibly practical, essential jobs. They were delivering medical supplies, disinfecting entire hospitals, checking people into hotels without any human contact. All of it was to keep human workers safe.
And this, right here, gets us to the heart of it all. This super fast adoption of robots is a classic double-edged sword. On one side, you've got these amazing opportunities. But on the other, you have a whole new can of worms, a whole new set of really complicated challenges.
All right, let's talk about making robots more human. Because this rapid push created a really unique problem. For any of this to work, for people to actually accept these robots, they had to feel a bit more, well, human. And this is where we bump into a really cool idea.
It's called anthropomorphism. Now, that sounds like a complicated word, but I promise it's something we all do all the time. If you've ever named your car, or gotten mad at your laptop for being slow, or had a little chat with Siri, yep, you are anthropomorphizing. We just can't help ourselves. We instinctively give human traits to non-human things.
And this is where that double-edged sword really comes into focus. See, giving a robot a friendly voice or a name can make us trust it more. It makes us more willing to accept it. That's the opportunity. But there is a tipping point. There's a line where human-like stops feeling helpful and starts feeling, well, just plain eerie. That's the challenge.
So let's talk about that. Section 3, when human-like gets creepy. Let's dive right into that unsettling feeling, because it's a real psychological phenomenon, and it has a fantastic name, the uncanny valley.
This whole idea was actually proposed way back in 1970. And the theory is pretty simple, really. It says that as a robot gets more and more human-like, our positive feelings about it go up and up, but only to a point. Once it gets almost human, but something's just a little off, our good feelings totally crash, and we feel this sense of revulsion instead.
Think of it in steps. So, step 1, a robot that's clearly a machine. You know, like a big assembly line arm in a factory or a little rover zipping around on wheels. We're totally fine with that, right? It just feels like a helpful tool, so our emotional response is positive.
But step 2, this is the plunge into the valley. This is when a robot is incredibly close to looking human. It might have synthetic skin, eyes that blink, but something in its movement or its expression is just not quite right. That's when we get that unsettling, creepy feeling. It's the almost that freaks us out.
And then, the theory goes, there's a step 3. If we could ever, somehow, create a robot that is so perfect that it's completely indistinguishable from a person, our positive feelings would come right back. We'd climb out of the valley on the other side.
Okay, so we've covered the psychology. Let's shift gears now to the social side of things, which brings us to our next big question. Could robots be a cure for loneliness? You see, the pandemic didn't just create a need for contactless work. It created mass isolation, and that opened up a whole other can of worms for humanoid robots.
I mean, seriously, with the whole world in lockdown, social exclusion became a massive, massive problem. And this was incredibly hard on people like the elderly who got hit with a double whammy. They were socially isolated, and often they were digitally cut off too. And this is where robots like Sophia enter the story. Her creators looked at this huge global problem of loneliness and thought, hey, maybe we have a solution here. They actually planned to start mass-producing robots based on her design specifically to help people through the pandemic. And just look at the tasks they had in mind for her. Yeah, sure, taking temperatures, that's a functional task. But leading morning exercises, giving therapy, providing social stimulation, her role was clearly meant to go way beyond just being a machine. The goal was to emulate human interaction and provide real companionship. So, let's wrap this up. Our robotic future. Where does this whole massive, unplanned experiment leave us? Because make no mistake, what we just lived through has pushed us years into the future of human-robot collaboration. I mean, the pandemic absolutely forced our hand. Our acceptance of seeing humanoid robots in our daily lives has accelerated like crazy. But, and this is the key thing, those fundamental challenges, the uncanny valley, the really complex social questions, they haven't gone away. If anything, they're more important now than ever.
Which leaves us with a final, really big question to chew on. As we rush to build these machines in our own image to solve these very human problems like disease and loneliness, what are we really creating? Are we building true partners to help us navigate the future? Or are we just building better mirrors?